have a special smile today. SOUQ morning to you as I welcome you to SOUQ Business Landscape on another lovely day for the show. So with me, my usual anti-usualist guests, analysts. I'll introduce you to them in a second and you understand why I'm excited. It's still SOUQ Business Landscape. Thank you for staying on. So I'll introduce my guest today, the usual Dr. Idahosa Osamanze is with me this morning.
Great Nigeria, Kenya, good Femi was.
Great Nigeria.
I can see that JD is looking some refreshed after the judo
Wait to be introduced.
Okay. I will wait till we introduce.
All right, my next guest, you've seen him on the show a few times. I'm always excited to have him. D. Jidetao.
Now I can talk, have you?
Yes, you can.
Okay. Good morning. Good Nigeria. SOUQ Femi Walsh. Good morning. Glad to be back on SBL this morning. As Doctor was saying, so in my place, they call it Ashekwodun, the leftover of the festivities, and that's where the heart comes from.
You had to jump to that. I was going to get to it.
Oh, yes, please, by all means.
How much meat did you eat yesterday?
Oh, by as a matter of principle, I only allow myself maybe 2 or 3 pieces. Because the
why
excessive nature.
Why don't I believe that?
Oh yes, yeah. I mean, I'm older now. When I was much younger, we used to almost finish a leg in the sitting. But nowadays, I just do 2 or 3 pieces and then we roll it over to the next year.
Yeah, but just look at the economy of that festival.
Oh yes. I was speaking with a few friends of mine yesterday. So every year at the second day of the Eid festivities, there's usually this festival in Djibouti called Ojudoba, where people from all over the world come to pay homage to the king, and you see that easily almost 1 million people thronged on Djibouti. All the hotels were sold out, all the restaurants were sold out. People were literally walking just to find whatever it is, entertainment, quick business. You see all of this at Nassau, people around the arena just making a quick buck.
When did this happen?
Oh, that was yesterday.
Couldn't certain organizations do stuff like this on a regular, which would not only create a tourist attraction, but bring money?
An international festival.
Yes.
By listing it in UNESCO.
Yes.
As one of the
cultural headlines of the
world.
That's fantastic.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes. I mean, because it's annually, it might be difficult to make all of that investment when you know that your peak period is only a couple of days in a year. But what that means is that people now need to develop more activities, more festivals around, across the year. So if Ojudoba is once a year, who says you can't have
something like 2 months before it?
Exactly, 2 months before it, down
to
maybe
spread it out
Christmas, like that. But it's always warm to see that despite everything else in this part of the world, things of a cultural nature still take this, massive space in the hearts of people.
Yeah, but you see, it's just a fact that somehow people sit down to think until people produce something, nothing really economic happens.
Oh yeah.
Recently in the Isle of Man, they had the Atiti race, which they do annually. In that period of time, I'm told the whole hotels are sold out. In short, the profit that they will make in the whole year, they actually make it
in that's
one 2 weeks. Yeah.
Oh wow. Oh wow.
As the race is going on,
without anything necessarily being manufactured, it's just the gathering of people for one objective.
One event.
Yeah. I happen to have been at the dockyard in Liverpool to see the motorbikes that were coming out of the ferry in their hundreds who went for the race. And there's no accommodation in short. People have to take
tents
so there's a whole lot of economy that can be tied around cultural issues.
Yes. I think we should plan stuff like this and just spread out, because I think we can get people to get behind this event.
Yeah, but you see, this is where, of course, the traditional rulers really need to up their game in terms of creating that ecosystem where some of all these things can happen.
That's right.
That when people can feel a sense of safety. You see, they call money holiday.
Yes. You have to look
and just spend some more money. And then the people who live in the neighborhood, of course, get better and there's a smile in their faces.
And not rob them. All right, well,
Well said.
you know how the show gets. It's your favorite show. We understand that. SOUQ Business Landscape. So on to the headlines. Business day first. Oil buyers shift to electric vehicles. Threatens Nigeria petrodollars. So oil buyers are shifting to electric vehicles and they're scared that it's threatening the petrodollars. So the EV market is looking to cause more harm than good. Is that true?
It's not harm.
It cannot be harm. But please, go
To
ahead.
oil?
No,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, but you see, this is the point which I've always tried to underscore here. This happened with rubber.
Mm.
This happened with cocoa. It happened with groundnuts.
Mm.
What were the lessons that we learned?
No.
Absolutely no lessons. The experiences were wasted because the intellectual community don't do due diligence in terms of research to find out why some certain thing happen some certain way. Now, in the last 5 or so years, Europe has been hammering that at a certain point in their history, petrol cars will not be tolerated in their environment.
that's right.
And you don't forget the petrodollar crisis since the 1970s. That the world has been thinking, how do we come out of this mess? There are a lot of options that had been tried by the West to see alternative to petrol.
Right.
Now, I think this is a better alternative that we are looking at here now to petrol. So, what are you seeing? You're seeing a whole lot of people, even foreign companies that are exploring oil, are now shifting and investing in the production of electric vehicles. Everybody is positioning to play in that because it's a reality that's going to dawn on us.
Correct.
The only people who really have not think about this reality is the people who are in the third world. And unfortunately, we are part
That's where
of
we
it.
are.
So we are thinking that oil money will continue to come and we continue to go to Abuja to share it.
We'll catch on eventually, but I still worry why I asked the question.
Yeah, but you see,
Will oil suffer because it's money taken from that to
no,
processing EVs?
the truth is that nobody will buy the crude, or it may not be as lucrative as it used to be, because the greatest user of this is vehicles. Vehicles are the one using crude, and so if vehicles are all become electric, and we are no longer needing crude, so you find that the price will dip. And for us who are about 80 to 90% dependent on sales from crude, we suffer.
I mean,
that's the reality.
It's the biggest non-secret in the world that the West is moving away from fossil fuels to renewable energy. Like Doctor said, they've been touting it for the better part of a decade. So it cannot be surprising to manufacturers or producers of oil when you can tell clearly where the trajectory is going. On the flip side, yes, it's going to, make an impact in terms of our earnings. But for a country that has, as we say in Nigeria, has sense, it means that you have an opportunity to use this fossil fuels to build your own infrastructure, build your own society, whenever it is that you want to get to that point. And yes, we have over 1 billion people in Africa with daily needs of this thing. So instead of just solely depending on the sale of this cruise and everything that eventually ends up in the pockets of unscrupulous politicians across Africa, why don't you now satisfy your own markets? We know that we have a glut, right? We know that we have a specific need for these things. How then do we use what we have to build where we need to go? I think that's whether or not we like it is happening.
It is.
Right? So are we just going to now go back again and be begging, please come and help us build EVs? I mean, it's not practical, right? So it's important that in this time that we have, we can satisfy our own demands, meet our own needs by this fossil fuels.
Yeah, but look
Awesome.
at it. Even Saudi Aramco, that has been the most profitable company,
Yes.
indigenous to their economy. In the last 3 years, is moving away
From oil.
from relying on oil revenue.
Right.
They are creating a huge ecosystem for sports, for tourism, building a new city that's costing Saudi Arabia over 500 billion US dollar. The new city that is going to completely run on renewable energy.
Amazing.
So this is to tell you how nations think and compete.
Right.
And here we are still thinking about, oh, is our money, and we are not invested. We are in the critical sector that will actually drive growth. Education is neglected, and here we are. We cannot figure things out. It's quite unfortunate.
Let's figure things out, guys. More and more. Take those opportunities. Next headline, more Naira, less value as inflation erodes 7.6 trillion Naira consumer spending.
Again, no
This
surprises.
is scary.
No surprises if you look at it, in the big picture like that. But like I always say, what does that mean on a micro level? What does that mean for you and I? I don't have access to 7.6 trillion naira. But if you also look at how the naira has been devalued, $2 million is still $2 million, right? But if you factor in the inflation and the devaluation of whatever currency it is in Africa, either it's Nigerian naira or the Ghanaian cedis, you can see how it has depreciated, all over the town, all over the place. But I'm not overtly concerned, to be honest. I'm not overtly concerned in terms of how the world is looking at it inwards. Somebody made a very good example about the Japanese yen. There's no business, of the average Japanese guy with whatever the FX rate is. As a matter of fact, the West is always hammering on Japan and China for devaluing their currency. But everything that the Japanese guy needs, Korean, all of them, they produce them. So there's less demand on all of these things, and there's less shock when we see headlines of this nature. But like I said, I'm not overtly concerned. Some of the very, very learned critics and analysts that prop up all over the place of social media, I've pointed out to Argentina and Venezuela. Oh, see how they've been doing it. But in the last 6 to 8 months, we've seen how the economies have tanked because
Those are wrong examples.
Those are horribly wrong examples. But I think, for me, I think our government appears to be trying to stifle the inflation, curtail the free flow or the free fall, so to speak, to see what happens. But I'm not overly concerned. But of course, when you see headlines and this and they put it in stark context, it's going to jump out.
I'm thinking you'll be concerned because we're not producing, like the example.
I said on this table on Monday, same issue. Look at it. Elementary economics is what this is. When nation devalues currency, they are eyeing export markets. So that their goods become accessible in foreign markets. So it's a competitive strategy for nations from international economists, elementary international economists. And that was what I was saying. I don't know how our people read theories. Yes, Japan rightly devaluing. Because it's a whole lot of electronics vehicles that are shipping into the foreign markets
from them.
And so it makes the goods cheaper in those countries so that it becomes very competitive. Same with China. But you cannot say same for Nigeria because that's the same problem that Greece has, same problem that Venezuela is having, Argentina is having, same problem. Because you're a consuming economy that is import-led. The least thing you can let go is the value of your currency. That's the only thing you can let go. Because you know that you are not getting competition with international markets. So you only local market. And most of the things that you even get, even up to toothpick, we bring it from abroad. So we lose at both ends. So I think this is the place for us to rethink what we're going to be doing. And we talked about this geopolitics the other day. How can we champion and pioneer a robust and resilient African market
That sounds far-fetched.
where we can actually... No, but it's not. So there are a few things that are happening right now, which of course sounds and make us be very, very hopeful. We're seeing that recently, Dangote was saying, and with a full chest, that oh, the petrol we are producing here, our laboratory is first in class. So our petrol will be better than petrol you can get anywhere in the world. You see, when you have those kind of investment, really, because people are looking for value, actually not price. So how do we, as a people, start to create value?
That value
Is what is important. What other people need, and once we can make it here, what happened to our currency is not a problem. But if we are not able to create that value, what happened to our currency must worry all of us. Because you just look at it, currency in your pocket is like petrol burning. You put a pack of 400,000 in your pocket, before you jump down the staircase, it's gone.
Fiam, it's gone. You go to the supermarket and you buy a few packs of chocolate and cornflakes.
It's gone.
Your money is 76,000. I start to wonder, how did we get here?
It just had to be chocolate to use as example.
Oh man, I have young children that have no concern
For price or
for
value.
price, man. Yeah.
All right, still on Business Day. Western multinationals fleeing Nigeria are being replaced by Asian and Turkish firms. Bloomberg reports. Is this something to worry us, or is this something that we can take advantage of?
The
Be happy
framing-
about.
The framing of news items sometimes worry me, because when you hear things like fleeing, abandons, jettisons, it sets off alarms. But
Sometimes Nigerians, we like to use those.
I mean, it's just to create panic within the environment. Yes, certain companies have moved out, but they've been replaced by not just Turkish and Asian firms. Some of them have been replaced by indigenous firms, right? Tolerant, for instance, that has been playing in Nigeria for the better part of 50 years, recently took over how much percentage of Diageo holdings in Guinness, Nigeria. That's not a bad thing, right? Because you see that Tolerant has played in other markets as well, say other fast-moving consumer goods like noodles, all of those things. I don't think it's a problem. Where I think the issue will be why these companies are leaving. Is it because they've been priced out of the market? Is it because their overheads have become too much? Like the diaper factory in Ikorodu, I forget what it's called now. Had to move because they said their overheads were just
Yes, many times it's the former.
Yes.
Many times it's the former.
Yeah, so
Overhead,
it's
too much.
the overhead is too much. And again, this comes from some costs, infrastructure costs. You're paying for electricity, you are building from ground up. In some cases, the security is not there. So yes, these are elements of it that concern me. But as long as it's not like, because I grew up, at the time that there were warehouses or factories all over Ibadan where I grew up. And by the time I became of age, they have been replaced by churches and event centers and all whatnot. And that, rung alarm bells to me that if these companies are leaving and are being replaced by event centers, then we're in trouble. If they are being replaced by other businessmen or women still playing in that space, I don't think it's too much to worry about.
I think it's also very fundamental for us to look at the real dynamics. But like they say, bad news is what sells. That's
Travels faster.
journalism 101 in Nigeria. So it's only bad news that sells. They said if dog bites a man, it does not make headline. News. And if a man bites a dog, that's when it becomes news. So that's the mentality that we have toward journalism. And I think that for me is really a big issue.
It is.
Because it creates a lot of scare and then stifles creativity, innovation, and even the courage for people to try.
That's right.
You're right.
So you're painting a picture that, the hell has been let loose. But I think it's important for people to also understand that, a lot of dynamics are also playing out globally. Some of these companies in their home country are also losing ground.
Indeed.
competition
Indeed.
is not as lucrative and profitable as they used to be. Those days, they used to be the dominant factor. But you see, the dynamics of the economy is also changing. How are people playing today? Now, when you go to look at companies that are the best in the world today, many of them don't have a warehouse or shop.
Right.
Right.
20 years ago, 15 years ago, you see companies with big structures, and they are the one at the top. The shares of this world, the Chevrons of this world, the ExxonMobil of this world. But today, when you are listing companies that are profitable today, you don't see them in the first 10. IT has taken all over. And this is where the world is, and this is where everybody wants to play, where there's profit. So people are changing model of doing business. So that should not be a worry to us or so much of a concern that model of business are changing. But how we also changing with the changing times is what, for me, the real fundamental things that we should be talking about. A whole lot of things are changing. Lifestyle has changed. So if we rely on the old way of doing things, definitely we will be left behind.
You're correct, Doc. Even relationships are changing. On to the next.
I don't know about that.
On to the next Financial Times. Nvidia vaults Apple. The vaults Apple and Microsoft as AI frenzy makes it most valuable company. So Nvidia, like some call it.
Oh yeah, that's what I call it. Nvidia
has become the world's most valuable company on the stock markets. Obviously, many of us know it's a chip-making company. It has jumped from 3.4% near 1.25, giving its market capitalization of about $3 trillion, above Microsoft, above Apple. Like you were saying, Doc, new businesses are coming on top.
New ways of doing business,
new ways of thinking, new ways of having relationships.
This is where the warfare is actually on right now.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, the semiconductor warfare. What is conditioning the entire world? From Taiwan, TSMC, to Samsung, to Intel, racing and struggling to grab what is in the world. And so almost everything we think about today is powered by artificial intelligence.
That's right.
I was so shocked yesterday, and I was listening to somebody who was doing a webinar on church and mission. And he was talking about a lot of what AI is doing in terms of helping people to do something. That all the traditional work that, of course, people used to do, AI has taken them all over. So this industry is the trillion-dollar industry as we speak. And that's why everybody is hustling to play in that sector.
Yes.
America is investing hugely on the semiconductor market. Japan is putting plenty of money in the semiconductor market because that's where the world is tilting toward. And everybody, that's a need. Almost everything in your body right now has a semiconductor on it. From your wristwatch to your telephone to your computer.
Right.
Everything. Even the mic you are putting on. Everything has a chip inside of it. And so there will not be an end to this competition. And it is people who strategically position in this industry that will actually become the next world power. You can imagine that in that market alone, TSMC controls about 56%.
Solo.
So the entire semiconductor market is dominated by Taiwan, small Taiwan, with over 61%. Then you have Korea, about 19%.
Korea.
Yeah, South Korea. So what are we doing?
Obviously, not North Korea.
Not Korea.
You'll be surprised how much stuff they two are doing, on the ground.
But you see, it's also chip. Elon Musk, I was reading somewhere Elon Musk and Microsoft are going back and forth talking about chip in your body where you just walk through and the payment is made.
Well, yeah.
I mean, there's no limit to ideas rule the world, right? There's no limit to how far folks want to take this thing.
It's amazing.
If somebody had told you in the year 2008 that you could make payments by just
Thank you.
tapping your phone, you'll have said it's not possible. So with the world of artificial intelligence, there's really no limits to what anybody can do anywhere. It now depends on your moral or religious leanings to say, do I want a chip in my
Or
body,
how your brain also
or how your brain is wired.
conceives.
You see, except you were out of this world, I used to tell people, there's no manufacturer who come to tell you and say, Jide, what do you need? What do you want me to manufacture for you?
I can tell them a few things, but
But they will not come to
they
you.
won't. Yes, you go look for it.
They build it
Yeah.
and convince you to have it.
Yeah.
Just like we're talking about the crude oil business just now, moving through EV. Very soon, we will not have option but to use the EV vehicles, because that's what will be coming from
what
those
we
who have the power. Except that we have developed our own local technology that can defy what they are doing elsewhere.
All day.
But you know, like Bill Gates once said, that he preferred to hire very lazy people because they find short way to do things. So AI is actually encouraging laziness globally. So you have a lot of lazy folk, and then of course,
my goodness.
AI can do all the thinking for you. That is where we are really, because that's the shortest cost to do anything. Today, your voices are cloned.
Right.
Images.
Images, so many things that AI can do today. So we can see that Big Gates has really broken through with this philosophy of lazy people who look for cheap way to get things done and shorten the processes.
That's right. That's right.
All right, still on Financial Times, U.S. electric cars stall where climates meet jobs. So President Biden wants to increase adoption, but his tariffs on Chinese imports could reduce competition and increase costs. We're still talking EVs. We're still talking
it's the election year. You'd expect a lot of
leanings.
and compromises and all whatnot. Some people will take hard stances, some people will compromise, but it's no surprises to me. And these are some of the talking points that American business owners, want to speak on. Again, I find the American election very fascinating. On the one hand, you hear matters of policy like this, and on another hand, you hear somebody say, "Oh, I'm the smartest guy ever. I'm very smart. You could try me, I'm smart. So, you just look at it and say, is this our big America that things are distilled to mundane on one hand and then very serious on the other hand? But, Biden has to reinvent what the American dream is. If the American dream is EV, AI, he has to take a hard stance, on that standpoint.
But you see, the truth of the matter is, from Jide's analysis, is for me really the problem in the West, not just America, including Europe, is that they have over-democratized their economy.
Can you explain that?
Oh, yeah, this is what it is.
Too much leeway?
Oh, yeah. The government has made as its priority the killing of business over political correctness, so to speak. So you see huge investment in social safety net, as they call it, which is not producing any results. Now you check out, for example, all the debate about student loan in America. Biden had to write off a chunk of it because they are not working. So rather than rely on the very foundation that built those society, they destroy that foundation, which is this individual competitiveness, where people are allowed to unleash their creative energies to be able to do things. So you have overtaxed your companies. You get to Germany today, they are taking corporate tax of about 43% from companies. And what's happening? Companies are shifting out. And that's almost in all Europe. And that's also happening in America. So this will kill initiative.
That's right.
So rather than go to work, and at the end of the day, government just come and take
Almost
all that
half.
you work for. So I better stay at home and allow the government to feed me.
In fact, it's quite prevalent in the US. You see people who drive and they'll tell you, I'm legally blind. I'm overweight, and then I identify as disabled because they don't have to exert any energy because the government takes care of them. In countries that are China, for instance, I've worked with Chinese before, and the way they take work is a lifestyle thing. You can't tell them anything about it. They work from 7 in the morning. At 1 p.m., they go for lunch. After lunch, siesta, 1 hour. Everything is regimented like that. But to Doc's point, all of these things has been over democratized. Like I say in my house, it's not a democracy. You don't have a vote. It's what I say that goes, And I think we need a measure of that because that's how America has been built. The rest of the world has been built.
That's quite half cup, half full. Now, I wouldn't say depressing. I wouldn't say it's overly exciting.
Right.
On to the next paper, Financial Express. PLI Rejig may see faster release of funds. MSME push. So while scheme was launched over 3 years ago and as many as 14 sectors are covered. Oh, we're talking Asia, by the way, Bangladesh. Right. So only around 5% of these funds earmarked so far have been disbursed. And it's giving them worry.
I'm fascinated by the recent trajectory of Bangladesh. Because, what I used to know of Bangladesh, India's poorer cousin.
It's shocking. It's good, right? Shocking.
Right. India's poorer cousin that is now playing in the, comparatively to Africa, big leagues. I used to know Bangladesh for the production of fabric, jerseys, t-shirts.
Robots.
You see rubber, you see, buildings and buildings of people just pulling the yarn and just making things work. So I think it's deliberate on their government's part to earmark a figure for medium and small scale businesses. As we often said, medium and small scale businesses run the economy. Yes, we are going to have big players who invest billions of dollars, but on the base level, it's peer-to-peer, servicing that makes things happen. I'm rooting for them, mostly because I want to use them as an example of what Nigeria can be if they succeed.
We have done that on this show countless times.
It's about if they succeed.
They are
It's
already
estimated that our total GDP is about 500 billion US dollars. In 2023 alone, from garments alone,
exactly,
Bangladesh made 473 billion US dollars.
It's not even close.
One product.
One from garments.
One, yes.
One line, one
item.
Yes.
That's crazy.
That's huge and massive.
We always sang the praise of Bangladesh on this show.
Yeah, but because they're doing the right thing. And they are, you see, this law of competitive cost advantage is also an elementary economic fact that nation specializes in the areas where they have a comparative cost advantage. So you leverage on the things that are of ease to you.
Right.
And that is, if you have read from Third World to First World, there was a very humorous remark made by Lee Kuan Yew in that book when he was talking about the Ghanaians. That when he visited Ghana in 1965, and the president of Ghana was very, very elated to introduce to him a very bright young man who got a first class in classics from Oxford. And then he took a turn and said, oh, wow, I thought that these people that nature has blessed with land, their best should have been in agriculture, not in classic. You see the twist. So he's saying, look, if you have this massive land, which we don't have, see, your comparative cost advantage should be in this area, so you're not going to spend so much money. When you look at the story of the Nukol in Good to Great, you find that what Professor Jim Collins says in that book is that they moved their iron company to a rural area where people are used to farm. Because he said you cannot teach a farmer how to wake up early to go to farm. Because it's already in their DNA.
Yeah. Right.
So immediately they moved the company to that environment. out of the city center where people are sleeping after doing party overnight.
I'm waiting for Uber.
so all they needed to do was just to teach them some lessons, and that's innate discipline of work just come to play, and you see growth happen. And I think this is what we as Africans must leverage on. I still want to see university in Nigeria. See, split along what is unique to us. Take, for example, in Maiduguri, in Katsina, and we are having Animal Husbandry University. What all the students talk about or study is how to grow cow. Nothing more. Because cow is a big business. The cheese is there.
True.
The milk is there. The meat is there. The leather factory is there. So we're having that kind of a specialty. And we're looking at a university that is studying just cassava in Benin City, where we are investing and harvesting so much from starch.
Right.
Not just the fufu and the gari. So these are the kind of things we should be thinking of as a people. And this is where we can make quick wins if we put money in this area. And this will not be requiring so much. Netherlands is taking, Denmark is taking so much money from cheese.
Oh, yes.
So much money from cheese.
For eons, it's been strong.
Netherlands is taking so much money from milk. So why can't we do same here?
I mean, it would be really good to see universities get technical as opposed to somebody wanting to go and do pharmacy at the University of Benin, and at the end of the day, they'll say, your cut-off mark is not good enough. Go to agriculture, which is what we see. But seriously, we have to take all of these things seriously. Nobody is coming to save us.
No.
And we don't need to reinvent the wheel. The things we can do are looking at us right in the eye. But we'll get there.
Amazing stuff. Apple shut down its pay later service. Scary a bit. Apple confirms closure of Apple Pay Later service. Pay Later service introduced in 2022, just a few years ago, and it was launched last year. The service will be replaced with a built-in installment loan feature in the iOS 18. No one knows when iOS 18 is coming.
Wait. So they had buy now, pay later.
Yes.
So people will buy their Apple devices, and you expect them to come back and pay later.
No, but it's an ingenious idea.
It's a genius idea. You also have to factor in the times that we live in. I'm not surprised at all that they shut it down, and they are replacing it with a loan installment feature. Again, you look at what China has been able to do with, say, their Transsion Holdings that owns the most popular phone brands in Nigeria, Techno, Infinix, such like that. And I know that there were times that had this buy now, pay later, but they had a feature built in. Once they cannot take out their money, they shut down your phone. It becomes a dummy. It's useless, But Apple has projected itself as this lifestyle product. It's fine, it's sexy, it's sweet, and all of that. And if you see how people go on rampage in developed countries, New York, London, Germany, breaking into Apple stores, I'm not surprised now. But one thing you can also not fault Apple for is being very creative with their solution. So I'm amused that they thought it could work like that in an age where an iPhone is worth more than people's annual income, right? And then you see that they have to think again and say, what can we do? iOS 18, I think they're on 17 now.
Yes.
One of this morning, we'll wake up now and they'll say your iOS 18 has been updated, So that's amusing.
And one of the great things with, as a segue, with iOS 18 is coming with AI.
Everything has their AI feature.
Yeah, but you see, there was a threat recently by Elon Musk that if Apple will go AI on iOS 18, that he will stop using Apple products.
They'll now move to another Android base.
Yes.
That is only a matter of time before they introduce
will get on.
Elon Musk is a very interesting character because on one hand, he's such an outlier, and then on the other hand, he makes some declaration and you start to wonder, what's in this guy's head? But for somebody that has been able to build Tesla, build all of these things, and has this morbid resistance to AI-enabled smartphones, is bewildering.
But you see, this is...
Perhaps he knows something we don't.
Oh, yeah, that is the point, you see. Because he is seeing tomorrow.
And after that kind of comment, they'll call him and be like,
guys,
And tomorrow he says something else, and it does a full 180 on you.
Is just to let you understand that competition is getting stiffer,
Right.
and it's not going to get better.
It's not loosening up at all.
Oh yes, and this for me is very, very instructive. I was saying to fathers 2 days ago or 3 days ago, you see, it's very easy for us to blame people for our problems.
Oh, yes.
How are we going to begin to develop new competencies
Capacity.
so
Build
that
capacity.
we can fit into the new lives? Because, especially for people who live in the third world, we must rethink our lifestyle.
Correct.
Because things are not going to get better. Company will continue to fold. Apple would have, if they were the Nigerian kind of loan app company, they would have been sending bulk SMS to everybody and say,
Your
"This
family
man
is a thief.
patronizing.
They don't
It's a
think them."
You know, those kind of things that happen.
Right.
So this is what is happening here. Because people get into this contract and they are not able to pay or fulfill. It's not because they deliberately do not want to,
Right.
but they don't have the
He
means.
said, yes.
Because the economy is not smiling. So people must learn to eat small. I would say, yes, I was advising them. People must learn to eat small. Because the truth of the matter is that, like they say in our local parlance, it's not everybody in UK that is okay.
That's very good.
So we don't need to be abroad to be above. You know? So these are the kind of things. Because you are seeing people who are squeezing hard-earned dollars. I say, I want to train somebody in Oxford, I want to train somebody in Harvard, and you use the whole of your life and pour it into it. And then the person finish in Harvard, there's no work to be done. And then you are still giving the person pocket money.
Oh, wow.
So we must rethink the way we are doing things. Because it's not going to get better. The world is aging. And people must realize that. I use population to judge. Some 2,000 years ago, you know how many people were on the planet Earth? But today, we are over 8 billion. And this is projecting to get higher and higher. Nigeria is just 200 million. We cannot do nothing. And then they said by 2030, we will be 415 billion.
That's right.
Doc, if you go further, we might just break down and start crying.
No, it's
Please
good.
don't
Tears.
cry.
It's good. When you finish crying, you now deal with
Wipe your eyes and get on. We've come to the tail end of the show, SOUQ Business Landscape. Remember, engage with us on social media across board, #SBL. Thank you, Dijide Taiwo. Thank you, Dr. Osamanze. My name is Ike Namba. See you same time on Friday, 7 a.m. Have a lovely rest of the day.